throw your life away on, with Andrew Reed and the Liberation. It's a serious question, one worth pondering. Am I living the life I want, an intelligent life, or something else? How can I have a better experience of life? These are some of the questions explored in this series of messages without the brag and the advertisement, getting beyond even human institutions and society, into the wilderness, nature, the reality of how life actually operates on this planet. These messages range from intimate recordings from the awakened forest to concerts, national conferences, and broadcasts on a wide array of philosophical topics.
This is perhaps the third sermon on the mountain, or the mount. As I get home from a long day, I drive past the church, which is being constructed, just to look at the progress. And I was particularly concerned with the color of the rock, making sure that it wasn't bland, that it was rich. But the question arose in my mind of this: who is crazy enough to build a church? What am I doing? And I think with any significant endeavors, there's a bit of trepidation, because there's something at risk. What am I doing? Is this going to work? Is it going to work out? It seems so outrageous, but yet something deep within me says this is the right path. It is the right thing to do. And of course, me, being the one that was perhaps denied a few drops of sap at birth, or perhaps my oxygen tank was restricted, resulting in some brain damage. Yet the brain repairs itself if we really study that kind of thing. Yes, I have to question this, and it's good to question. And we get these images in our minds of very courageous people with steel will, iron will. And they just plow through all the resistance and obstacles. Yet, it's not quite like that if you're a human. And I am so human. I am susceptible to every vice, and have participated in a fair number of them, mind you. Yet, what gives you the gall to build a church? Holy ground. Well, there'll be concerts, corporate events, Green Berets, weddings, all kinds of festivals in the big hungry. And there just is a shooting star that just went over my head. Perhaps it's a sign, as it causes me to look up in this natural amphitheater and look at the spectacle in the sky and these stars that present themselves to entertain me, to delight me, to sparkle in the vastness of empty space, which I consider God. God, or I should say the God, who is unseen, unnoticed, unrecognized, unrevered, but yet is and is within everything and within us. Yes, looking upon this holy sanctuary, this church, this thing that has been erected just because I love the idea of divinity, of the sovereign of this universe. I know there's an intelligence behind the construct and design of this world, and I want to honor it. And I want to honor every individual on this planet, as well as every insect, every blade of grass, every rock. As I look upon the darkness at this time of night, I'm not preaching to an empty space. Of course, I'm not preaching at all, because I'm not preachy. But I'm talking or having a relationship with living things. Things that recognize my consciousness. I know that when I walk through the woods, that the rocks, the birds, the deer, the trees, the flowers recognize that this is a man of good cheer. Wanting to do no wrong to them, but to be as helpful as I can be. Because that's Andrew Reed. That's me. And I've always been that way. Whether I'm mowing some elderly person's lawn or shoveling the snow that fell in Iowa as we did. Helpfulness. So much like the Boy Scouts, because I am still a Boy Scout at heart. Be prepared and what? Do a good turn daily. That's very British, I know. Do a good deed daily. And I've challenged, for example, the Multiview staff, as they come into the office and register what they're grateful for that day, because we have the Attitude Gratitude book, which does miracles in an organizational context. But I've also asked them to hold each other accountable regarding acts of kindness, with a simple star or something like that registered on that same line in the journal. And think about that. You take even 20 or 30 individuals employed by a relatively small organization, which we are, although we make big things happen. And I don't want to say that in a braggadocious way, but when you align with reality, good things happen. And you think about if, let's say, 20 people on an annual basis of 365 days, except for leap years, of course, did an act of kindness where they smile at the clerk at the convenience store, or they pick up a piece of trash, or they turn over the black beetle as they're passing by and getting to the meeting. Well, that's a tremendous amount of goodness that may not have happened without having some accountability, or where people take ownership and responsibility for their lives. A structural move, of course, which so many leaders could do if they had the balls to do it. Let's just put it like that. I'm not, at least at this point in my life, I'm not interested in pedestrian ideas about how to do things. Listen, I'm a tough guy. I hang out with elite forces. Literally. I'm a great flanker on an assault team, right? I've proven that time after time, especially in my younger years, although I'm still surprised at how athletic I am. But with all that said, the cumulative impact of many people being conscious or elevating the consciousness within their respective organizations or groups, civic groups, corporate groups, volunteer groups, whatever. The compounding effect on that is tremendous. And I think that's so much of perhaps the joy of life, or the intention really of God or the universe, is to increase our level of consciousness, our level of awareness, you might say, our level of consideration or meticulousness regarding the experience of others. Now, with that said, I'm not talking about pansy ideas about goodness, all light, all good, all the time, all sweet, because, again, those are the frustrated people that only want the half of life. There's the dark side, the bitter side, the death, the decay, the ashes that we sit in now, that we are emerging from. There are both halves of life, and they have to be reconciled. And this entire structure, this church, is dedicated to the reconciliation of both of these ends. That it's a push-pull world, electromagnetic in every way, just like the magnet, and you can do your best to carve off all of the negative side, and it will just reappear. And that's the way it is in this world and the next. As it is on earth, so it is in heaven. The same properties in both worlds exist. And though we like to have dreams of delight in the afterworld, yet I perceive there will perhaps be a struggle aspect, as that is the nature of things. And it creates an element of excitement, of delight, and a spice for life, perhaps, that we're never going to completely agree. Even as we're saying, Alleluia, 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 worshiping upon the Most Holy, the God which is invisible, that no one will ever see, that we'll have different opinions. And of course, we'll favor our own. But can we be sophisticated enough and of a high enough consciousness to accept the views of others? And in that, there's harmony. And that is probably the state that we're really trying to attain. So to build a church, and I'm not a churchy person. Yes, I've been exposed to many faiths. I wear the Christian badge. But my badge is different than yours. And your badge is different than any other person on this planet, regardless of your affiliation. And I am bound to God. I am bound to divinity. I am accountable and responsible, and I have to form my own opinions about things. So I always have to reserve the right to do that, even if I change my views daily. The heck with consistency, if we're really after truth. And this is a hard thing for many people to swallow, because people want what? Moral superiority. They want control over people. They want power. And if you don't believe like I do, then you're bad. I refuse to say that. I refuse to say that. Because I recognize your job is to be you. At whatever level of consciousness you are, surely divinity knows that and accepts that. And therefore, you can accept yourself, can't you? Divinity has given you permission to accept yourself. And yes, there are times you need to be brutal in your assessment of yourself. Harsh. And say, I failed here. I have not done my best. I have not put my foot forward. But in a way, that is the best you could do at that time. I think God is far more forgiving, and understanding than we think. That's just my perception. And therefore, if I feel that that is the Spirit of God, I'm going to have that towards you. I'm going to recognize you. I'm going to listen to you. I may not agree. I believe life is a meritocracy. I believe you have to give to get, and it's not one-sided. But I'll hear you out. And I'll do my best to support you. But with this said, I recognize the dark side, that if you come against me, bad things will happen. And a lot of people recoil from that dark side aspect. But is it not a feature of nature? You take a look upon all of life under this blue globe in which we're encapsulated, and you see all kinds of viciousness, ferocity. And there's a terrifying aspect of nature because it has a way. It widows out the weak, the strong prevail, those that align with life, life goes well, those that go against or want to be silly or stupid about life, things don't work out so well. And that is it. So much of this comes down to acceptance, or you might language it as faith. Faith in the process of life. And again, I'm no preacher, and I'm not trying to be preachy. But I think there's an incredible amount of contentment and satisfaction from just accepting life as it is. There will always be wars. There will always be silly and stupid people. There will always be thieves. There will be liars. But there'll also be the brilliant people. There'll be the saints. There'll be the people that are trying to find themselves. There'll be the mediocre, of course, because the 50th percentile has to exist, right? There'll be all this variety of consciousness. And to the degree or the sophistication that we can evolve our consciousness to, where we're not as judgmental, because higher consciousness can see far more than lower consciousness. Lower consciousness only gets glimpses of higher, right? Everyone lies, right? That's what they think. And then you get above that. No, I'm going to commit to truth. I'm going to commit to goodness and intelligence and logic and all these things. And so you evolve yourself, and then you look down on perhaps a lower consciousness and recognize it, and you have what? Some compassion, helpfulness. But sometimes lower consciousness, the only thing they can understand is a bullet. And I know that's probably a harsh thing to say, but you sign an agreement or a contract with someone of low consciousness, do not expect it to be upheld. It won't. It'll be broken. And you'll be attacked. Your property, your home, the lives of your children are at stake sometimes. And then it's the time for war, which is part of the dark side of life. But this has to be reconciled. Thus, the Church of Reconciliation. So this very small point on this planet, under the grand globe, just dedicated to that. And just like those that believe the Holy Book, we can go to Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7, and discover that I, the Lord God, have created all. I created the light, the dark, the evil, and the good. I am the creator of all. And this definitely comes out also in the book of Job. Beware of my theological background. Again, I could be an ordained minister. But I'm emphasizing a point here, a point of acceptance, a point of doing what you have to do, a point of empowerment. That the sovereign of this universe, God, expect you to be you. That is your function, to form your own opinions, your own ideas, and to pursue those things. And in that, you are doing your function, you're adding your spice, you're adding your flavor to the world. And to be perhaps a little less hard on yourself, except for when you need to. When you need to paddle yourself because you've been a bad actor, you know you've not done right by others, then judge yourself harshly. Go on a fast. Stop eating. If there's work that you need to do, start to fast until the project is done. I find that to be great motivation. Hunger is a great motivator. If you need to finish X or Y, just stop eating. And that will remind you, in a biological sense, what you need to do. And I'm not saying you have to go 40 days like the Nazarene, but you have to give something to get something. And all I know is every time that I've went on a fast or given up or sacrificed, as some people would say, I get a great result in multiples. And therefore, the truth is you will be paid many times the price that you've paid for whatever attainment you're going after. So with that said, it's a great night. We had a shooting star. It could have been a sign. The stars are putting on a miraculous display this evening in the Church of Reconciliation, even though I'm not a churchy guy. But again, I can't be outdone by Voltaire, who built his church. And of course, he had his name in larger print than God that says, to the invisible God, which no one has seen. Basically, words to that effect. Because, again, no one has seen God. God talks to us telepathically. But I think the point is, God talks to us. And do we have the courage to listen and follow through?
Thank you for listening. If you need anything further, just go to mvi.life.